permanent maxillary third molar is the last tooth in the arch. You can see it is the 8th tooth on the quadrant from the midline, and it is located distal to the second molar, correct? So this is the second molar, and third molar is located distal to the second molar, and there is no other tooth distal to that. So a maxillary third molar will have a mesial contact with the distal aspect of the second molar, but will not have any distal contact of its own. And another thing to remember is that it is not a succedaneous tooth. We've already discussed what is a succedaneous tooth. Yes. So succedaneous tooth is that it doesn't have any predecessor. Coming to the naming system, according to the two-digit system, it is 1-8 and 2-8 for the maxillary third molar, and for mandibular third molar it is 4-8 and 3-8. In universal system, as you can see, it is 1 and 16 for the maxillary third molar, and 17 and 32 for the mandibular third molar. And in Palmer notation system, for maxillary third molar, denote the upper arch and write the number of the tooth, that is 8-8 on each quadrant. And for mandibular, denote a mandibular arch and write 8-8 for the third molar. The crown of the maxillary third molar, when in comparison with the maxillary second molar, is smaller in all dimensions, and it is normally the smallest molar in the mouth and the most variable tooth in the maxillary arch. I will tell you why later on when we are discussing about the crown and the root of the maxillary third molar. So remember that it is smaller than the second molar and the most variable tooth in the maxillary arch. So the crown form can be either type A or type B. This is very similar to the crown form of the maxillary second molar, if you remember. Okay, so the crown is similar to second molar in all matter except for the dimension. So it will be smaller in dimension, but it resembles a second molar, that is type A. Whereas type B is the 3 cusp molar variety, where the distolingual cusp is absent. There is just one lingual cusp present, and the groove pattern is variable, so there are more supplemental grooves which are seen in this type B, and it is called as the heart shaped, similar to what we called in the second molar as well. So the patterns are very similar to the second molar, except that they are smaller in dimension. So here you can see why I said maxillary third molar is the most variable tooth in the arch. You can see that the crown forms of both right and left side here are like so varied, none of them are same as each other. This is why it is the most variable tooth. Similar to the crown, even the root numbers and morphology is extremely variable, and the roots of third molars, maxillary third molars, are the smallest compared to the other maxillary molars. And the roots are usually 3 in number, but they can be either partially or fully fused together. If you see this image, this is a root which is completely fused. This is a root which is completely fused, but if you see here and here, it is partially fused together. Mandibular third molar again is the 8th tooth in the arch. Yes, without any distal contact, and the mesial contact is the mandibular second molar. It is again a non-succedaneous teeth, meaning it doesn't have any predecessor. It is not replacing any existing deciduous tooth, and it is called as a wisdom tooth in a layman's term. Even the mandibular third molars are extremely variable in both size and shape. But only thing which is constant in case of mandibular molar is its dimension. That is, if you remember, it is wider mesiodistally compared to the buccolingual dimension. You can see in the image also, it is wider mesiodistally compared to the buccolingual dimension. It is opposite of the third molars. The third molars are wider buccolingually and compared to the mesiodistal dimension. There are two basic types. Type 1, which resembles the permanent second molar. It has 4 cusps, as you can see, and the same general contours and the occlusal pattern and the groove pattern and everything. And the other type will resemble the first molar with 5 cusps. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 cusps, and it has a similar occlusal pattern and comparable contours to the first molar with 5 cusp variety. And normally it is very common to find extra large mandibular third molar, as you can see in the image, especially the one which resembles the mandibular first molar, that is the 5 cusp variety, and very common to see a extra small maxillary third molar, as you can see in this image. This is a 3 cusp variety where the distolingual cusp is missing. To differentiate the first and second molars with the third molar are smaller than the first and second molars usually. The only exception just now we discussed is the 5 cusp lower third molar, which will be kind of slightly larger than the second molar. Okay? And third molar crowns are bulbous in nature, meaning they have fatter contours. Occlusal tables of third molars are relatively smaller, okay, compared to the first and seconds. That is, the buccal cusp tip is very closely situated with the lingual cusp tip. Occlusal surface of third molars are wrinkled in appearance compared to the first and second molar because of the numerous supplemental grooves. There are a lot of small extra grooves which are present next to your central groove, the mesiobuccal, mesiolingual grooves, all those grooves. Okay, so that's why it gives it a wrinkled appearance. The third molar roots are short, fused together, they're pointy and frequently curved distally in the apical third. So these are the differences of third molar compared to the first and second molar. These are the learning objectives.